Yo, what is up guys? It's me exactly back bringing some more daily NBA news. As always, I appreciate you guys for checking back in, but now let's just get into everything that went down yesterday. First up in the news, we got some more updates on this whole LeBron James to Philly situation, as it seems that this could be more serious than we all thought. We could legit see a starting lineup of Markelle Fultz, JJ Redick, assuming they re-sign him on a cheaper contract, LeBron James, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid. That's 3 guaranteed all-stars minimum next year. Anyways, the whole thing started a couple of days ago with those billboards that were posted in Cleveland that I showed you guys yesterday. LeBron was apparently asked what he thought about that yesterday, and he said that he was flattered by it. So that is the first bit of news that we received. But it's not only that. Ex-NBA player, and I know I'm going to butcher this name, Alaa Abdelnaby, I think that's how you said it, Alaa Abdelnaby. He was a player in the NBA during the early to mid 90s, bounced around from team to team for a few years before he found himself outside of the league. But now he hosts a radio show in Philadelphia, and he went on that show yesterday and said this. I told this to a few other people, and I have no problem with saying this. My brother lives in the Philadelphia area, and he told me that LeBron last week through a superintendent was in the area checking out some private schools during the All-Star break. Now, if this is true, then this is huge, because at the very least it would mean that LeBron is considering signing with the Philadelphia 76ers, which I guess shouldn't be too surprising since I'm sure LeBron will be giving serious consideration to a handful of teams over the offseason. But still, once they heard the news, I'm sure that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid have both said to themselves, we now need to step up our recruiting efforts more than ever to make this thing a reality. Next up in the news, Adam Silver has officially declared war on tanking in the NBA, and this whole thing sprouted from Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, coming out and publicly telling his team that it's best if they lose games, in which he was then met with a $600,000 fine from the league. So there's that, and the fact that it seems like there's a legit race being held to the bottom in the NBA right now, as the bottom 9 teams in the league are only separated by 6 games. And get this, since the All-Star break, those same 9 teams have a combined record of 3-25. Now it's hard to prove whether or not them losing is because they suck or because they're actually trying to lose games, and the lack of proof that they're trying to lose games is the only reason that Adam Silver hasn't hit them with the swift hammer of justice already, as he sent out a memo to every team in the league yesterday saying this about tanking. Over the past several seasons, discussions about this so-called tanking in the NBA have occurred with some frequency, both in public discourse and within our league, and US governors have taken steps to address the underlying incentives issues by adopting changes to our draft and the lottery system that will go into effect next year. Throughout this period, we have been careful to distinguish between efforts teams may be taking to rebuild their rosters, including through personnel changes over the course of several seasons, and circumstances in which players or coaches on the floor take steps to lose games. The former can be a legitimate strategy to construct a successful team within the confines of league rules. The latter, we have not found or hope to never see in the NBA, has no place in our game. If we ever received evidence that players or coaches were attempting to lose or otherwise taking steps to cause any game to result otherwise than on its competitive merits, that conduct will be met with the swiftest and harshest response possible from the league office. Basically, he said there's a difference between tanking and rebuilding. He believes a handful of teams in the NBA are rebuilding, which is perfectly fine, but none of them are taking the court purposely trying to lose games, which is tanking, using reverse analytics, after articles came out suggesting that that's what some teams might be using, reverse analytics, to give themselves a higher chance at losing games. Instead of having lineups on the court that actually play well together, they put out lineups that scientifically don't work well together. Now, some people might see the NBA's war on tanking as pointless. We as fans, I think we would prefer to see our favorite teams towards the bottom of the league in the lottery about to get a good draft pick than constantly missing out in the playoffs or losing in the first round. So we don't see the big deal with it right now, and right now it's not that big of a problem. The NBA is more scared of what this could lead to in the future, where instead of 7, 8, or 9 teams always at the bottom of the league, you'll see closer to 20 teams rebuilding, where you would have more teams competing to get a high pick in the draft as opposed to trying to make the playoffs. That's when the NBA would seem kind of whack. There'd be no point in watching if every team is trying to lose and then only the top 5 or 6 teams are actually competing. Next up in the news, this could be the last season that we ever get to see Dwyane Wade play in the NBA. As he said yesterday that this is the first time in his career where he is unsure of his future in the NBA after this season. I don't know, I told everybody around me that I'm taking it after this season, I'm going from there. It's the first year I've ever went into summer with that mindset. I always went into it as a free agent or opting out of a deal to get another deal. This is the first summer I can say I'm just going into the summer and see how I feel and see the position that the organization is in and go from there. I'm not really concerned with it, honestly. I'm cool with whatever I decide to do. It will be my decision. It just feels like a couple of years ago that Dwyane Wade was at the height of his power in the NBA. And if Dwyane Wade does retire, for me personally, it'll be like one of those players where it feels weird not seeing them in the NBA. But at the same time, I couldn't blame him if he does decide to hang it up. He has had a great career, has won 3 championships, and will get to retire with the Miami Heat. Couldn't really ask for a better ending. Like he kind of said though, whether or not he does come back will depend on the position that the Miami Heat are in. If they're in a position to compete for a championship. If they make some major moves, bring in a huge free agent, then I think he'll come back. If not, and it's going to be just another season like this one, then the odds of him coming back will be less. In other news, someone who NBA teams could be hoping to get in the 2019 NBA draft is Shareef O'Neal, Shaq's son, as he has officially committed to UCLA, announcing it on Instagram yesterday with this picture and the caption reading, "Heading to UCLA. I know my mom is glad I'm staying home." Shareef had originally committed to the University of Arizona, but after the whole FBI situation and it coming out that the team has supposedly been paying players to play there, including DeAndre Ayton, Shareef decided to decommit to the team since they could be facing some severe punishment and he doesn't want to be around for that. And outside of Shaq and Shareef's mom, at least one other person is ecstatic about him deciding to commit to UCLA. Former UCLA player Kevin Love. As yesterday after Shareef posted his picture to Instagram, Kevin Love tweeted this: "Shareef O'Neal to UCLA, oh it's on now." That is until they find out that UCLA offers Shareef O'Neal some money to play there. I'm just kidding. That's actually gonna do it for the news part of this video though. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure to like the video. I greatly appreciate it as it helps the channel grow. But now it is question of the day time, and today's question of the day is this: how do you guys feel about tanking in the NBA? What should the punishment be if teams are caught tanking? Let me know down in the comment section below. But now let's see what you guys said in yesterday's video. And yesterday I asked you guys whether or not you think that Kawhi Leonard is coming back this year, and here's what you had to say. I think Kawhi might play a few games at the end of the year or wait until the playoffs. Kawhi don't end up like D-Rose or IT. Take your time, mate. Kawhi Leonard won't come back unless he feels like he is 100% ready to come back, so I'm not that worried about him becoming like Derrick Rose or Isaiah Thomas. If Kawhi Leonard doesn't come back during the regular season, there is no way that he's coming back during the NBA playoffs. That being said, I do believe that if it's true that Kawhi Leonard is back to working with the San Antonio Spurs, that he will be back this year. Don't forget to leave your answer for today's question of the day down in the comment section below, but now we have to take a real quick look at the games from last night. There are many times this year when I keep wondering why the Nets are competing as hard as they are in games, especially so late in the season when it shouldn't matter for them anymore. I think, why are they trying to win when if they lose, they can get a higher pick in the draft? Then I remember that they don't even have their own first round pick in this year's draft. The Cleveland Cavaliers do. So the fact that the Cleveland Cavaliers won this game is like a double win for them, since it also keeps Brooklyn lower in the standings. And also in this game, LeBron James became the first player to record 30,000 points, 8,000 assists, and 8,000 rebounds in his career in NBA history. Is it safe to say that he's the best all-around player that the NBA has ever seen? He had a triple-double last night with 31 points, 11 assists, and 12 rebounds, 129 to 123 the final score. We can talk about D-Wade possibly retiring all we want, but for now the man is still Dwyane Wade on the court. He is still capable of doing some major damage, and you had to know that a big game was coming from him after how emotional he got over the victim of the school shooting in Florida being buried in his jersey. He had to put on a show last night, and he did. Wade scored 27 points, 15 in the fourth quarter alone, as well as hitting the game-winning shot with under 10 seconds to go to get the Heat the 102-101 win over Philly. Good stuff, Wade. One thing that we have learned over the past couple of years is that almost anyone in the NBA can be a, quote, point guard or run an offense. It's really becoming a positionless sport. Last year, no one would have thought that Bradley Beal would be able to run an offense as well as he is able to. Now though, we see that he has a lot more to his game than just shooting as he continues to lead the Wizards to win 107-104, their most recent victory over the Milwaukee Bucks. Beal with 21 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds on the night. This was a huge win for the Clippers as they are going to be fighting with the Nuggets from here on out for one of the last spots in the Western Conference. And to get the win in this one, LA had to come back from 19 down, and they did, led by their bench. Lou Williams had 25, while Boban Marjanovic also added 18, 122-120 the final score. The Blazers were able to get a comfortable 116-99 win over Sacramento like they should have been able to, as the Kings are one of those teams that we talked about earlier that make up part of that 30-25 record since the All-Star break. Damian Lillard was great once again with 26 points and 12 assists. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is injured once again as he had to exit this game in the first quarter and has been ruled out with a hamstring sprain. Not the biggest deal, but it will still cause him to miss some time. Luckily for the Hornets though, their opponents were the tanking Bulls last night, so they were destined to win in the first place, 118-103 the final score. Kemba Walker dropped 31 while Howard chipped in 24 as well as 5 blocks. That wraps up all the action from yesterday though. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to smack that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more daily NBA news, as well as join the quest to 200,000 subscribers, #1,000,000 in a year. Remember to vote for the player of the day, but also remember the only players whose team won are eligible to win player of the day. And yesterday, that player by default was Anthony Davis, and his 53 points, 18 rebounds, and 5 blocks. Thank you once again for watching. I'll see all of you right back here tomorrow, but until then, I am out of here.